Reminds me as well of a conversation I
Yeah.
had with the late Harry Reeder many years ago, and I was talking to him about apostasy and said, is it the case that often intellectual doubts are connected to moral issues?
Mm.
And
Hmm.
Harry's response was, it's always connected to
Mm.
moral issues. Now,
Mm.
that's not to belittle or, there are genuine questions out
Right.
there and there are people genuinely wrestling with them. But often when they're genuinely wrestling with the question, they're trying to find the answer, not
Mhm.
simply raising the question as cover for apostasy.
Right.
I
Right.
think
Yeah.
what you're saying there is so spot on because we had to engage with a lot of deconstruction stories and deconstruction accounts for the research for this. And I can honestly say I don't think I heard one deconstruction story that did not at least contain a moral component. So, for example, Rhett McLaughlin from the Good Mythical Morning podcast, that was a really famous deconstruction story
Yeah.
and a really persuasive one for a lot of people. I even had youth pastors and friends who were mature Christians text me privately and say, this kind of rattled me. Like this deconstruction story kind of threw me a little bit. Are you going to answer this? Something along those lines. And so Rhett's deconstruction appeared to be so intellectual. He's talking about science issues. He's talking about evolution. There's a lot of stuff going on. But if you listen all the way to the end, he throws in this, he kind of slips it in this line about, well, and my gay friends are oppressed by Christians. And so already he's decided that
Right.
the biblical
Yeah.
morality is not tenable for him.
Mhm.
It's not like he's asking the question, is this really what the Bible teaches about sexuality? It's that
Mhm.
I cannot abide this. This will not work. And so I think, and this is my personal opinion just from the research that we've done, is that in many cases they're using intellectual justification
Mhm.
for moral doubt, and they're looking for reasons to be out. And so they're using intellectual justification because if someone's doubt is purely intellectual, it's resolved fairly quickly.
Yeah.
I've talked with many people. I think my doubt was primarily intellectual. So I was able to stabilize fairly quickly. I mean, it was years of searching and wrestling and rebuilding and changing, even course correcting along the way. But on the basics, the existence of God, the truthfulness of Christianity, the resurrection, I stabilized fairly quickly on those things because it was purely just, is this even true? And then you look at the evidence and you think, oh, there is really good reasons to believe this.
Mhm.
So yes, I think to your point, Carl, I think there's a moral undergirding of every deconstruction story that we see.
But I don't want to sort of put the counter side to that, of course. There was just one qualification. I do think it's important that churches create an environment where particularly young people are able to ask the tough questions.
Yes.
To go to that example of, my gay friends feel oppressed by Christianity. Why shouldn't I think they're oppressed by Christianity? I do think that pastors and elders and the sort of leading people in the church need to make sure they cultivate a church atmosphere where the asking of a question is not considered to be a moral crime.
Right.
Yes.
Mhm.